Welcome to the Author to Authority podcast. And today I've got a wonderful guest for you that's going to be sharing some really powerful hints, tips, and advice about communication and connecting. And so I want to introduce you to Jason Kendrick. And he is a communication and transformation specialist. He's an author, a speaker, a hardcore communications trainer, heart-centered living practitioner, and he offers himself to the world in love and service to cultivate peace, love, and joy within all he works with. So welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I think we're going to have a wonderful discussion today on communication. So first of all, though, let's introduce you to our listeners and give them an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better.
Awesome. Well, I'm Jason B. Kendrick, the Connection Catalyst, and my purpose is to help you connect and create connection within all areas of your life, whether you're single, married, in business, whatever. There are many simple ways of being present, and I don't want to say tricks, but there are skills that you can develop to become more connected with yourself first and foremost, and then with others in your life. And it definitely will help you in all areas of your life. The more present we are, the more out of our head we are, the more successful we really are. I mean, the brain is a judgment machine, and its whole purpose, you look at the reticular activating system, it's all about focusing on either danger, fight or flight, or hunger or needs. And so learning to get out of your head space into a more centered heart space will make you more present, more loving, more caring, more compassionate, and for nothing else, more connected to yourself and feeling what's going on within you, which is, I think, probably the best takeaway that any of us can have. I would love to be more connected, more present throughout my day. And luckily I get to teach this. So I'm usually present at most of my classes. So, you teach best what you most need to understand. And I definitely need this for myself as well. So that's why I teach it.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your story.
Well, I grew up in a Southern military family where if you have any experience with the South or the military, communication and connection were not really high on the list, if they're on the list at all. And so I noticed over my experience with my parents and their divorce and moving back and forth, moving all over the place, that I didn't feel like I was really a great communicator. I didn't really feel like I fit in all the time. I mean, granted, we moved every 2 to 4 years. I went to 10 different schools and then graduated.
And this is throughout the U.S., right?
Well, throughout the U.S. and Europe and Germany. We did 3 tours in Germany, 2 when I was a child, and then when I was in the military, I did another tour there as well. So, but yeah, mostly the southern U.S. and then Germany, and then since then I've moved out to the west. So I'm in Colorado now.
Nice area.
Oh yeah, we've had a lot of snow, so we're starting to think about spring already.
So are we. I'm in Canada. We're done with winter.
I can understand.
So you grew up in this military family, and then when your parents divorced, you moved around a lot, and you didn't feel connected. What happened after that?
Well, after I got out of the military, I bounced around. I worked a lot of restaurant jobs, bartending. I did all sorts of different things. And throughout my own just living experience, I had a few epiphanies. Those little nudges from God, if you will, or the universe. Was at my first Metaphysical Fair to see my mentor. Well, he wasn't my mentor at the time, but he was one of my mentors now, Danny Brinkley, who's top notch in the near-death experience sort of arena. He was one of the first that really helped get that out into the forefront for folks. But as I'm standing in line to go see him, I'm having a conversation. This guy's like, "Oh, well, it sounds like you should be an author and you should write a book." And at the time, I'm like, "Write a book? Me, this guy?" And that was just one of those seeds I was planting, because I know he probably will never remember saying that, and he won't ever remember me because we were just 2 guys standing in line. But that spurred me on, and so I took this idea and let it mold over, and then I wrote my first 2 books in succession. It's Not Your Life, It's You, A Layman's Guide to the Power of Perspective, which is really what I needed in my life at that time, was to look at my life through a point of choice, to regain my power as an individual and go, well, whether I want to believe it or not, or I'm ready to accept it or not, what if I did choose to have these experiences? What if I did choose these parents and to have this upbringing? And what did I learn from that? And once I realized, okay, well, I learned these things. What does that spur to me? What are my strengths and weaknesses? And then it just naturally dovetailed and just took me down this path of communication. And what I'm finding now is a lot of my communication is around Mr. Nice Guy syndrome and Superwoman syndrome and the dating kind of world, because we're all in flux, we're all evolving, and what used to work, the old paradigm no longer works anymore. And so I do a lot of awareness. I did a talk this weekend in Grand Junction, Colorado, on that subject, and it's just really about bringing awareness to the fact that the old masculine and feminine paradigms no longer work. We don't have those clear cut roles of I'm the man, I'm the hunter gatherer, and I go get the stuff and bring it home, and then you as the woman make the food and raise the kids and do all that stuff. Like, we don't necessarily need each other's for survival. So it's taking time and awareness to open ourselves up to a new way of being, and to also realizing that masculine energy and feminine energy really have nothing to do with what body you're in. We as men and women have both masculine and feminine energy, and they have their purposes. And so that's really become a lot of the niche I've been forced into, or not forced into, but been led into, because it's what's been interesting me. I'm still single. I still like to have a family, and yet there are little things that we all have been taught and need to update. We need our software update, and so that's what I'm working on.
That's awesome. Now, I know you came prepared with some really good hints, tips, and advice on communicating and connecting. And of course, our focus is always predominantly on entrepreneurs, but I think a lot of what you're saying is going to apply to life in general.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The main thing, and one of the things that is always the hardest pill to swallow, is that everything's an inside job. It all starts with yourself. You're the common denominator in your life. And so I teach a simple 3-step technique that I learned from the Heart Mass Institute, which is really a simple way of becoming heart-centered and present within yourself. And when you become heart-centered and present within yourself, then you can truly become present with somebody else. And so the 3-step technique is simple. It's, you want to, as long as, if you're driving, then you can drive with one hand, but really it's usually not something good to drive. But as you practice this, it's something you can do pretty quickly. But you want to place a hand on your heart, or both hands, or just touch your general sternum heart area. This tactile pressure will bring your attention from your head down into your heart space. And as you get into your heart space, you want to breathe and imagine your heart expanding like your lungs. And after a couple breaths, you want to bring up a happy emotion, a loving emotion, a memory. It could be your kids, or if they're at that age, maybe your pets, if your kids won't do, or something that actually will bring a smile to your face and make you happy. And then you sit in that space. And I find this is actually a really great skill, especially living in the Denver area with traffic. If you're stuck in traffic, getting into your heart space will help you to appreciate the sun and the moon, or the weather, or the audiobook, or the music that you're listening to, versus being in your head in all the shoulds and judgments of traffic should be flowing, it's not flowing. So being present with yourself, and then this leads to being present with somebody else. And that is one of the reasons I call myself the connection catalyst. I feel what we're missing is true connection. We're all, social media is amazing. We can communicate to people all over the world. You're in Canada, I'm in Colorado. We can have these conversations. However, physically, interpersonally, many of us are disconnected, or we don't feel the connection. And it's that need, the human need to be connected, to be in a interpersonal relationship where you do feel connected. And so being able to give that gift to somebody else is huge. If you're feeling triggered or disconnected or not happy with the situation, a simple check-in, a deep breath, the old count to 10 sort of thing, being connected with yourself. And then once you become present, then a lot of times you can actually get to the core of things and resolve things in a much more healthy and empowering way. Whereas, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just wanted to stop you for a second, because I just wanted to go back to talking about being disconnected, because I think that's an important point. So many times I'm out and about and I see two people sitting beside each other, texting each other. They're not talking to each other. They're texting back and forth. And I'm like, that's okay when there's a distance, there's times I need to get a hold of my daughter. The best way is just a quick text off to her. If it's something important, we talk about it. But sometimes, she's in town, I'm at home, whatever, quick text off. But when we're in the same house together, I do not text my daughter.
Well, yeah, it's kind of one of those, this convenience has kind of taken over our interpersonal communication. It really has become the filler, and we have in some ways lost a lot of the ability to connect one-on-one. And you see that a lot with a lot of the, there's all the jokes about the millennials and the screens and everything, but that's just the outpicturing of just our adopting of technology. And yes, it makes our lives easier, makes things quicker, but at what cost? And of course, usually until we get to a pain point like this where two people can sit next to each other but never speak, they're in proximity but they're not connected. They're not actually interacting or being present with each other because they're on their phones or they're texting somebody else or they're searching something. And like any other tool, sometimes it can be as much of a hindrance as it is a blessing. And so we're learning how to use that. And so I feel like we're coming to a critical mass now of realizing that we are disconnected, that we are missing these things, and finding ways to be more connected. And it's much more simple. I think that's the biggest thing that I find is we assume it's going to be hard. And it's really not hard at all. It's more of a letting go and a setting down than it is of a doing. It's more of an accepting and being present with yourself and with somebody else. And why I'm such a big proponent of being heart-centered and practicing this heart-centering technique is because, like I said before, the brain is a judgment machine. That's what it's supposed to do.
Yes.
And if you're in your head, even if you're present with somebody, you're judging what they're saying. And especially, you brought up with your daughter, parents and kids. As parents, we love our kids so much. We want so much for them not to have to suffer and to have these experiences. And so if we're not in our heart space of being present with them and just hearing them, then we're constantly judging what they're saying, what they're going through. And then, oh, wait, let me do this, try this, do that. Let me give you advice. And that's maybe not what they need. They just need to be heard, which I think for all of us, if we could just be heard, if we had those safe people that would hear us and be present with us, we would all feel more connected, less depressed, and more empowered in our life, because nobody has our answers. And that's one of the things I've learned over years of coaching people, that I don't have anybody's answers. They have their own answers. It's just a process of developing trust and connection and ease, and so they can actually bring out their own answers, which, I'm sorry, parents, your kids need your love. They need your support. They may not need your answers. They'll find their own answers along the way. And it's a hard pill to swallow, but being present, you will connect, you'll have so much more connection, and you'll create much more of those intimate relationships that you're looking for, especially in the family.
I'm a parent of adult children and a grandbaby now. So to be honest, I have to disagree with you on that one. I fully agree with you that parents need to be connected to their children. And there is definitely massive symptoms of disconnect. I mean, when you read statistics that suicide is up 200% in 10 to 14-year-olds, that's telling you that parents are not connecting with their kids. But on the other hand, I think my role as a parent, and I think roles of every parent, is to guide your children. So there are times that you have to speak to your children. You have to teach them. You have to guide them. You have to show them what's right and wrong. Yes, they have to find those answers, but you have to guide them to the answers. And many times children's brains are not developed enough for them to be able to figure out the answers on their own. And they're actually looking to the parents to guide them in the way, like what is the right way to go. So I do agree about the connection, but I think as a parent, you have a powerful job to do in guiding your children, not controlling them. And ultimately they hit an age where they have to make their own decisions. And that's part of good parenting, is knowing when, they have to start making their own decisions and accepting the consequences of those decisions. Right.
Yeah,
My role with my daughter now, is, we have a really good relationship and we talk about a lot of things. I don't tell her what to do anymore. I do share my opinion with her and I'm like, well, here's what I'm thinking, but whatever you decide, I love you. I support you. You know, if I think you're going to make a mistake, I'm going to tell you, but ultimately it's your choice, your decision. And no matter what happens, I still love you. Right. So
Yeah.
I
No,
think,
I totally agree with that. And I think what tends to be coming up in my experience is, we went from, you know, growing up in the 70s and 80s with the latchkey kids and the kind of neglectful parents because they both worked, and that was the experience, to now we have kind of developed in, and I know it's shifting now, it's always in flux, but then we had the helicopter parents and the achievement medals and things like that, where we were trying to spend so much time making sure they didn't suffer, they didn't make the same mistakes. And so it's kind of that finding that balance of, I'm
mm-hmm,
going to advise you, I'm going to guide you. And in my experience, it's always worked out the best. Like, well, here's what I believe, here's what my guidance, here's my
mm-hmm,
advice. What do you think? What do you think is going to work? And then, swallowing that hard pill of, well, they're going to try it their way, and I'm going to be here as loving support. And it's, my focus is always about, we all parent differently, we all raise differently,
mm-hmm.
we all communicate differently. How can we be present and find that what works best?
Yes.
And being out of the head space and being more present in the heart space, you're more compassionate, you're more empathetic, and you will tend to find better answers there.
Mm-hmm,
And that's really my focus, is getting people connected that way. And whether it's parenting or intimate relationships or business, this is very powerful in all those ways. And yeah, I always run into a minefield when I talk about the parents thing, because everybody parents their own way, and it's
mm-hmm.
advice, just like
Yeah.
we advise the kids. It's like, this is what I feel. If that feels like it works for you, great. Doesn't always work that way, and I know I'm not everybody's cup of tea.
No, I
And that's
just,
okay.
it's something I'm very strong about. I teach a lot on parenting. So, but you are so right in terms of the connection.
Yeah.
Like, it is so missing with kids today. I work with a lot of kids, and yeah, I'm an entrepreneur, but on the side, I do a lot of things with kids, and I love volunteering and helping out with kids. And it breaks my heart sometimes because, these kids are crying out for love and attention and support. And I'm watching, the parents on the phone totally ignoring the kids, until the kids do something bad. And then the parents start screaming, well, the kid's been asking you for 5 minutes to tell you something. Like, you can't get mad at this child now because they finally got your attention, or you finally decided to get off the phone because you were fed up with their behavior. Well, if you had answered their question when they first asked you and put them as the priority as opposed to, your social
Yeah.
media. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be critical, but this is what I see, and it breaks my heart, right? That, as people, we do need to connect with each other. But I want to change the topic just a little bit, and then we're going to quickly talk about your book. But I want to relate this back to being an entrepreneur, because that's who most of my listeners are. So, as an entrepreneur, when you can connect with people and communicate, that actually builds your business faster than probably most skills that you're going to learn. We are a relationship connection economy, and the sooner that you learn that and you apply it to your business, you actually find business easier because
Oh
it's
yeah,
all about the connection.
yeah. I mean, whether we're hardwired for that connection, and whether we realize it or not, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And we
Mm-hmm.
all want to work with people we like. We all want to, we have our favorite restaurants, our favorite stores, and because of the experience, we don't go to $5, I mean Starbucks, for just the coffee. It's about the experience.
Yes.
And you can go make the same coffee at 7-Eleven or at home or something similar. You've got all the ingredients. You can make something similar. However, it's the experience. It's being there. It's being social. And so, what I love about what I do, and bringing this awareness to people, is how watching their shoulders drop, and the relaxation come across when they realize they can do less and be more productive.
Yeah.
Being connected and being present with somebody will make you so much more effective in sales, in
Mm-hmm.
communication, in your business. And just by listening to somebody and being present with them, they feel that connection. We can all tell when
Yes.
somebody's not listening to us, when they're just waiting to speak. And this makes me nuts, because you want me to buy from you, but you're not listening to hear what my needs are, or what my pain points are.
Yes.
And we've all had those experiences when you're in a good mood, you're on a plane or in a bus or something, you're traveling or something, and somebody is sitting next to you and you're just in one of those moods, you're like, I just feel like listening to this person. And their response is usually, oh my God, you're the best communicator in the world. And you've said 2 words to them. That's what we're missing. And I think it's the linchpin and the turbo for everybody's business, especially as entrepreneurs, is to learn listening, and not listening from a head space, but listening from a heart space.
Yes.
Is you will intuitively know what they need, and you will just get this intuition of, oh, I think I'll say this, or I'll phrase it this way, and it'll resonate much better than being in your head with all the things that we learn and having that script of, well, I have to say this, and I have to do this, and I have to close this way, and I have to follow up this way. Maybe you don't. Maybe this person is already sold, and they just need somebody to listen to them. And they've already connected with you because they see some value in you that they would like to take, or they would like to impart from you. So maybe listen, save yourself some time. Because I know I have talked myself out of more coaching clients and sales by following the old paradigm of talk, and sell, and prove myself. And whether it's business or dating, if you're being interested versus being interesting, you'll be much more successful. And that's about being present and listening. And I know it's hard. I know we're taught to talk and sell ourselves, especially in the West. But it save yourself the time and energy. It really is a powerful tool that is so much more effective than constantly talking like I'm doing now. I should probably listen some. Let me let you go.
Well, I was going to say we need to segment over to your books. So we've probably got about 2-3 minutes left. So tell me a little bit about your writing journey, and what was it like writing those first 2 books?
It was part and parcel of my own journey. I wrote It's Not Your Life, It's You, A Layman's Guide to the Power of Perspective, as I was going through my own journey of learning that my perspective really affects my life and how I think about myself and everything else. And I can adopt the normal victim mentality of, oh, it's my parents' fault, oh, it's my upbringing's fault, oh, it's because I traveled, I didn't stay in the same place for so long, whatever the story is. Or I can look at my life through a point of choice and say, well, maybe at some level I chose to have these experiences, I chose these parents, I chose to grow up the way I did because of what I learned and because of the experiences it gave me. And whether esoterically you want to believe that or not, it's much more empowering to say I chose it versus I'm a victim to it. And so that was my journey with the first book. And the first book was really the awareness piece. And as I wrote that book, I grew so much, I learned so much about myself that I wanted to change the entire book. And luckily another voice from God came down and said, no, you were there when you wrote it. Just somebody will be there when they read it. So just write another one. So then I wrote the companion book to it, which is more of a kind of application how-to. And they can go separately or together. They've whoever reads them will always find what they need. And the more you delve into it, the more you'll get out of it. I know I go back a lot of times and realize how much of it was channeled through by source, because I read it and go, that's some good stuff. Oh, wait, I wrote that. And I think a lot of authors will go through that same experience. But yeah, you can find those on my website, jasonbkendrick.com, or on Amazon, but just type in Jason B. Kendrick and they'll come up. The paperbacks on there, the ebooks on there. So I haven't done the Audible yet because I haven't had the time or the resources to get into the studio, but that's coming at some point. And the new book, Mr. Nice Guy and Superwoman, is the manuscript is about done, and then I have to start the editing and designing process. But I'm hoping to have that out by the end of the year or the beginning of next year.
Nice. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me on the show. I mean, it's so amazing to connect with a whole nother audience, a whole nother folks, a whole nother country.
Yeah. Well, so if you want to get a hold of Jason, you can go to his website, jasonbkendrick.com, right?
Correct. That's it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jason. I've enjoyed having you on the show. I love having these conversations and being able to get to know people and just share expertise and some really unique points of view. So thank you so much for being on. So this is Jason Kendrick and Kim Thompson-Pinder for the Author to Authority podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. Bye now.
Bye-bye. Thank you.